Have you taken a good look recently at the amazing structures that surround us? Today's buildings are smarter, stronger, and more efficient. It's incredible to think about all that goes into bringing a building to life. Most of it, the labor, falls to the subcontractors. Time and time again, subs rise above and beyond despite all the complexities, all the obstacles thrown their way. Today we are talking about how subs can increase communication and coordination to make more money on every project. Welcome to Bridging the Gap with Applied Software. I'm your host, Todd Wyant. Please feel free to interact with us by liking or commenting on this video. We would love to hear from you. Today we are joined by one of our partners, Benny Beltrowski. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me out today.
Benny is the Chief Strategy Officer of eSub Construction Software. It's a cloud-based project management solution for trade contractors. In an effort to eliminate data silos and improve the flow of information throughout the construction lifecycle, Benny is actually a founding member of the Construction Open Standards Alliance and board member of the Construction Progress Coalition. Prior to joining eSub, Benny worked with several Fortune 100 companies on their mobile strategy, and his knowledge of the mobile technology gives him a really unique perspective on the future of construction technology. Benny, can you give us a little bit more detail on your background on the construction industry and with eSub?
Yeah, definitely. So I got into construction tech a little over 10 years ago, coming from the mobile technology side. And when I first came in late 2007, I was really blown away because you look, there was over 3 million sort of workers out there that were on the site, but they weren't using technology. A lot of the things were client server based. And so we saw a large need for especially the specialty contractor that has most of this labor in the field doing the work for these buildings. And so it was something that was really interesting to me with my background in mobile technology.
Gotcha. So how have you really seen the industry change and shift in terms of technology and the adoption in the past 10 years or so?
It's really interesting. We're seeing a lot of technology adoption in the last few years. So I remember I was up in San Francisco for NECA in 2008 and talking to people saying, well, we're going to put your information in the cloud, or it wasn't really called the cloud back then, the internet, and they look at you like you're crazy. Like, This guy's going to put your information on the internet? Like, why would they want to do that?
Right.
And so I think I was a little bit blown away at sort of where we were at that time. But fast forward to NECA in Chicago, I think that was 2015, and one of the first guys came up to me and said, well, do you have native mobile apps, and are they on Android and iOS? And I'm like, wow, this is starting to change. So back then it was a lot of client server software. It's still a lot of client server and pencil and paper and fillable forms, things like that. But I think people are starting to understand the power of not just the cloud and mobile apps, but data, that underlying information and what they can do with it.
Gotcha. Data's king.
Yeah, right. Huge. And I think that's something that we need to continue to explain, because some people don't quite understand what data means and like this rich information and what we can do with it.
Right. Nice. So how does eSub fit into the construction lifecycle?
Yeah, sure. So eSub produces a cloud-based application and native mobile apps to help the project managers, foremen, and laborers collect rich information from the field. So we're after the estimating design process before the accounting process. So we help collect information from the field, such as labor productivity, field notes, so those are sort of pictures, daily reports, RFIs, and then from the back office, collecting or submitting information like submittals or change orders, and then we interact with your back office accounting software as well. So getting the right information to the right people at the right time is really important to us. And what we found historically, a lot of these companies were running off of information that might have been, or systems that might have been built for different personas. For example, the accountant. So there's a lot of software out there that was built originally for the back office and accounting, and it doesn't quite fit the needs of the field. Right. And we'll talk, I think, a little bit more later on a lot of the software that came out in the early 2000s and later were really built around a general contractor's workflow. Yeah. And so we saw a lot of subcontractors adopt tools and then put them on the shelf because it didn't fit them and didn't fit their needs.
Right, gotcha. So that brings us, so many project management things are based on the general contractor point of view. Why did eSub decide to go from the subcontractor?
So it's really interesting when you look at who actually builds buildings today. It's the subtrades, right? And who has the best understanding of these complex systems? The MEPs really do, as well as other trades.
Sure.
And so when you looked at that and looked at the market and who was actually building, we realized that there was a really big gap out there. There was a lot of general contractor systems out there, some client server, some cloud-based, but really were great at collecting information from multiple subcontractors, communicating with the architect and engineer, but there wasn't anything really focused on the sub. And the sub trades sometimes will have lower tier subs. If you're MEP, right, you might sub out test and balancing and things like that. But typically you self-perform the majority of your work, and labor is how you make or break your job. So it's really crucial for any system, for a subcontractor, to be able to get real-time labor productivity and understand issues that are happening in the field or in the shop and design before they become disruptions to your project.
Sure.
And so knowing that there wasn't much that was available for them, or they would have a watered down system that here's the GC system, but we can water it down for you.
Right.
And what we found is there was really lack of adoption. I mean, there's still a large amount of open opportunity out there just because a lot of these subcontractors, and especially in the MEP, have been focused so much on design software and a lot on accounting software. But when you look at the fundamental operations and field data collection, there's a lot of room for improvement. And so that's what we've been focused on over the past 10 years.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's huge, getting something that's really tailor-made for your workflow and your industry.
Yep, I definitely agree. I think when we saw the evolution of software in many industries, we saw that where one size fits all sort of started, and then there became better workflows that were geared to your industry, then geared to your specific part of the industry. And what we do is we go one level deeper, and we actually build our software tools based to the persona or the people in your company.
Okay.
So the web is more for the project manager, project engineer, where a mobile app, the eSub Fieldworks application, is geared for your foreman. And then we have eSub Time that can go down to the individual laborers, tracking their time and location and where they are. And that KISS, keep it simple, right? I mean, and so that's really important because when you're in the field and you need to get that information either back to the office or from the office, you can't go through a complex system to do it. It just needs to be right there, ready for them. And then from the web, when they're in the back office or in the trailer, right, having the greater view of the project and the application.
Right. Yeah, that's great, getting that customized view. So it makes the adoption, I imagine, so much easier because people can approach it from their lens and they don't have to get confused with all the other stuff that they might not handle.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely helps the adoption, but I think a big part of it too is a lot of our training and support came from industry. And so we focus on implementing the way that they know. And for every company, it's a little bit different. So we typically use the 80-20 rule. What's the 20%? That's going to give you 80% return.
Yeah.
So let's focus there. It doesn't mean you bought a piece of software that you need to use everything.
Right.
Let's train to the people that need. So some companies, well, I can't track my change orders submittals. Okay, let's start there. Or labor productivity and figuring out what that organization needs and really customizing their implementation based upon their needs, not just saying, here's a software tool, good luck, go use it. But even with that, it definitely makes it much easier having the persona-driven software application.
Yeah, very cool. So Autodesk has made an investment into eSub. Why do you think they did that, and kind of explain how your mission and vision aligns with Autodesk?
Yeah, so we are members of the Forge Fund. So Autodesk made an investment in us, and we really feel they made an investment in the subcontractor by investing in us, investing millions of dollars. And sometimes the voice of the subcontractor or the mechanical contractor is not served. And so what we saw with them is how do we collect the field data into that Forge platform, into those BIM 360 platforms? Because a lot of the things that they've been focused on with BIM 360 Build and other applications has been more either design, let's say, or to the general contractor. And we see that it's very important to tie back this great rich information from the field and from the subcontractor back into BIM 360 and back into the Autodesk applications. And so they saw that as well. And we thought it was a really great partnership to be able to help the MEPs move forward, especially as we continue to move more and more to a design-driven workflows. How do we get the designs out, and how do we get that information from the field back into the designs and then back into accounting? And so since Autodesk is focusing on a lot right now with their general contractor and architectural and engineering software, that they saw us as a perfect fit for the subcontractor space of being that field data collection project management tool for the subs that ties into the Autodesk BIM 360 ecosystem.
Right, sure. Yeah, I think it's great that to give more of a voice to those subcontractors in MEP. We definitely are in full support of that voice being heard more. So there's been kind of an explosion of technology in the construction industry as it really holds the key to productivity. So what kind of tips do you have for the MEP contractor as they navigate such a noisy and crowded marketplace?
That's a great question. I really think it starts with research. I mean, understanding what's out there and what's your need. And as we talked about that 80-20 rule, so understanding what are you trying to solve is step one.
Right.
From there, looking at the different applications that are out there and asking them who their core competency is too, and then also making sure with a lot of the new software that's out there, has it really been proven, has it been out there? And if not, run pilot projects, start your own in-house tech committee to discuss these. And there's also a lot of great consultants and partners like ASTI out there, because you guys are looking into the software every day, playing with the different softwares, going on site.
Sure.
So use your experts. Use the resources out there. Don't feel that, oh, I can do this all myself. It never hurts to sort of work with your partners in there. But I think the biggest thing is, again, understanding your need, researching the tools, determining on how early that tool is in the market. If it just came out yesterday and you're the first person on it, that's fine. You can be on the bleeding edge, but pilot it first, try it in a subset, see if it really solves the problems that you need. Don't just get software for the sake of getting software or technology. What are we trying to do? We're trying to improve efficiency, reduce risk in our organizations. And so I think that's really important while evaluating or looking out there, especially in this noisy market today, because every week or every month you hear about a new entrant or something different there. So something I would suggest.
Yeah, I think that's good. Have the plan and then work the plan, test along the way. Yeah, great. So in our highly competitive world that we got going on here, firms are in a race to save time, save money on their projects, but without sacrificing the quality. How can eSub help in this effort through project management?
Yeah, so I think a big part of it is labor productivity. Understanding your labor in real time is very important to any trade contractor, because that's really where you're going to make or break. So starting with that fundamental, and then building upon it is using that data over and over again. And so one of the things that we do, for example, is our daily reports. When you fill out a daily report in the field, it fills out your time cards for you. It fills out your labor productivity. It fills out your daily reports. So something that you might have had to do 3 different forms. I fill out a timesheet, I fill out a daily report.
Right.
And then also we push that into your accounting software. So now if you just look at a lot of these organizations, they might have, you're filling out a daily, okay, maybe it's a fillable PDF or it's an application, I fill out a time card, but then that information is then getting manually keyed in or imported into accounting. And if you look at some of these workflows that are happening within our own organizations, that they really have room for efficiency gains within there, as well as the ability to just access your information in real time. The flip side of all of this is still risk, because there is always risk. I mean, we always hear about projects going over or maybe something after the fact. And so how are you getting that information into a cloud, something that's searchable, that's easy to access if things start going south, or get that information in early so you can get disruptions and delays out of the way, or issues before they become disruption and delays.
Right.
And tying in with BIM 360 docs and the BIM 360 line, we can actually tie that into the design process as well, because really, that's where we're going to want to go in there, is how do we get that information from design as we're starting to fabricate before it becomes, oh shoot, I'm in the field and this is happening, or even worse, oh gosh, we have already put it in and now they're asking for this information. Right. So again, labor productivity, improving operational efficiency, as well as reducing risk in your organization is what we see as being most helpful.
Yeah, nice. It's streamlining those processes.
Yep, streamline those
Very
processes, remove those silos is what we always say. What we find is there's silos in every organization. A lot of times it can be between estimating and design and project management in the field, project management and accounting. So what is that central source where you can get that information and talk back and forth? So a lot of our integrations directly with obviously Autodesk, but then on the back end with Sage and Viewpoint and things like that are really important to our trade contractors.
Gotcha. Very cool. So we started by talking about all the change that's gone on in the industry over the last few years. If you can do a little future forecasting, where do you see the industry going in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm seeing right now today is that I call them sometimes the one percenters, but these large MEPs are moving to design build, moving to prefabrication.
Sure.
And so what we see happening is that the industry as a whole will move more to pre-construction in the sense of designing an LOD 400, getting information to the shop so they can prefab and then do more installation in the field. The other thing that we see happening is that the importance of the subcontractor, the trade contractor, will continue to evolve, because I think more and more people are starting to understand the general contractor doesn't build anything, right? The mechanical contractor, the electrical, your steel, your concrete, right? Your glazers are the ones actually building these buildings today, and being able to bring those people directly into the design process earlier on will be very helpful. And so we're working on it with Autodesk as well as how do we integrate projects not just from the sub to the GC, but the sub to the engineer, architect, into that sort of top collaborative web, sometimes we call it. And so we see the importance of the trade contractor and their ability to help get buildings done quicker and faster for the owner. And that's really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do.
Sure.
You'll start seeing. And then from a technology side, what are the tools that are going to allow us to do that? So the design tools that we're seeing out there, the fabrication, right? You guys are partnered with Manufacton, and there's a few other ones that are out there that are focused on the pre-construction side. And so we'll see those. And then as AR and VR starts getting better, right now it's not great for sort of building. I mean, there's some really great aspects for virtual reality for safety training, and there's some early stuff with augmented reality for in the field. But as we see this starting to evolve and these technologies get better, we go. But the fundamental change that needs to happen is better design, because for augmented reality or virtual reality to work well, we need to have really rock solid designs.
Sure.
We need to be able to have data, and that's where sort of eSub comes in, as well as even if we are moving to a DFMA world or more of a manufacturing driven, how do I track and see, well, how many feet of pipe have I installed? Where has it been installed? And utilizing that data. So I'd say that was my last thing that I would see, is that companies start better understanding their own data in the next 5 years, and BI, and using that data, where before it's like, yeah, we did a daily report just to do a daily report for risk mitigation. We put it into a folder somewhere. And we never looked at it again. We teach our people well, how do you use the data from there to address issues, get notifications when they say that there's been a safety issue or that there's been a delay, things like that. How do we harness that data to run our businesses more efficiently?
Right, yeah, really understanding the value of your data there. You're sitting on a gold mine of data, and how do you leverage that and use that more?
Yep, exactly. And we're going to see a lot more contractors over the next 5 years really understanding. So, moving to better designs, more manufacturing, connecting their workflows, understanding their data, and then this will allow them, this is a foundation to allow them to use some of these newer technologies that are coming out. And I think one thing that I realized, I was out at your guys' MEP Force last year, it's a great event, and I didn't realize how disconnected sometimes design really was still from even operations or project management and field.
Sure.
And I think that's going to be the other thing that we're seeing, is the silos starting to be removed, not that we're just throwing this information over the field or over the fence to project manager and, hey, go build it. And I know I'm generalizing. There's a lot of companies that are doing it really well today, though there's something that I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and we're working on that with Autodesk directly as well.
Oh, very nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us and all the great information that you've given us today. Really excited about even just the future forecasting, what we were just talking about. Sounds like a lot of really cool trends. And thank you guys for joining us and watching this video today. If you're interested in learning more about eSub or any of the applied software services, feel free to visit asti.com or esub.com. And until next time, I'm Todd Wyant, thanking you for joining us on Bridging the Gap with Applied Software. Thanks, everybody.